Thank you so much for joining us, Raja. Truly a pleasure having you on Brand Equity.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So I'm going to start with non-marketing practices question and really focus on you as, somebody who's managed to make it onto the global management and is the global CMO of a very reputed brand. You spent the first decade of your career at home, which is India, and then moved on overseas. First to the Middle East and then Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And then, of course, the place where we all aspire to be, New York. Give me a sense from your perspective, how different is it to market to less sophisticated markets such as ours and the Western markets, which are much more advanced, whether it be in terms of tech or even consumer behavior?
Firstly, what I found is whether it is India or Middle East or Europe or USA or any other part of the world for that matter,
Sure.
the principles of marketing are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually stunningly same, and across the various industries as well, because I moved also between various industries in addition to geographies. And what I found is that the universality of these principles is so stark.
Right.
The differences come in how they manifest.
Okay.
And that's more in terms of how you deliver messages or how do you do your packaging, but the fundamentals are absolutely same. In a country which is more developed technologically,
Mm-hmm.
the channels, they tend to be more competitive.
Sure.
And you have got more diversity that requires a lot more planning, optimization, which requires a lot more data analytics. And the more markets which are in the developing kind of a stage, the scenario is where the availability of data itself is very low, relatively speaking. So the extent of analysis you can do could be a little rudimentary.
But tell me, India is always looked at as, this very crazy, unique market and extremely cost-conscious, and also the fact that, there are so many Indias within India.
Mm-hmm.
So with your logic of universality, are you then saying that we are no different from any other country, developed or developing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you look at some of the human truths are exactly the same, right? And consumption, when we talk of consumer behavior, consumption is a subset of human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
What happens outside of consumption impacts what happens inside consumption.
Okay.
In other words, you need to understand the total human behavior to be able to understand consumer behavior and shape and influence it.
How about income levels, which I think, impact consumption?
The income levels absolutely impact consumption. There is no question about it. But the way they consume is very similar. So if you are a person from an economically deprived section in Africa,
Mm.
or in the US or in Latin America, the behavior is identical.
Okay.
So the point is, it doesn't matter where you are physically at that point in time. Geography is just incidental to the entire process.
I have an interesting comeback to you. When you say that, you're South Indian?
Yes, I am.
So, the common joke in India, South Indian versus North Indians, right, would be that, South Indians, however much they might earn, they pretty much live like paupers because their consumption levels are so low. You go to their house, it'll be pretty basic, and, they have this whole philosophy of simple living, high thinking, etc. And the same type of income levels, you go to a North Indian's home,
Mm-hmm.
he may be earning X, but, it'll look like he's earning 2 or 3X. So how would you explain that?
That's actually a very interesting question and a good comeback, I must say, right? It is not geography oriented, this is segment oriented.
Mm.
Even in North India, if you were to see, there are segments of people who are probably much more into savings as opposed to a lot more into conspicuous consumption.
Mm.
And in South India too, that exact same thing is true. The percentages might vary. So when you are studying the human behavior and therefore the consumer behavior as a marketer, you are studying the segment of that population. What is the psychographic makeup of that audience?
Okay.
And then you say, how big is my audience of this particular type? Yeah, in some cases it might be 1,000. In other cases it might be 1 million. And accordingly you scale up or down your marketing program. It doesn't matter in terms of, you don't generalize in any case saying that all of USA is like this or all of India is like this. And as you originally started at the beginning of this conversation, you said it's not just one India. There are many Indians within India, right? The way I would look at it is there are segments. We have actually at MasterCard about 1.6 billion consumers around the world. And the way we segment them into 9 different segments.
Okay.
And we focus on these 9 segments and say these segments have got these characteristics. Let's find out where they reside. Maybe X percentage of them reside in India, Y percentage in Middle East, and Z percentage in Germany or in Europe or anywhere else. And we try to start focusing things from that perspective.
Less than 5% of our population actually transacts electronically.
Correct.
Right?
Perfect.
Given that, you know, there is an announcement that was made that, you know, MasterCard is looking to invest close to $700 to $800 million by 2020 in India.
Okay.
That announcement was made by your India CEO.
Okay.
My question to you is, that's great. So we can all, like, you know, be very happy and celebrate that, wow, we're getting more investments. But the fact of the matter is, if I look at it from a, you know, global conglomerate point of view, why would you invest so much time and money in a market that is, you know, currently not sophisticated at all, electronically speaking? Sure, we all talk about the fact that, you know, we are poised to grow, but we've been hearing that statement for the last 20 years.
The way I would look at it is, India has got an incredible opportunity to exploit by way of payments. You said it's less than 5% is digital, and that is true. From a penetration point of view, if you look at the growth at which this is happening, e-commerce is growing at the rate of some 35-40%.
The base is low.
Base is low, but it's growing pretty fast. And the fact
and you know
that
why it's growing, right? I mean, the fundamentals of that growth are questionable because it's growing because of the volume of discount that is being given on e-commerce portals. The moment they stop doing that and it actually becomes a healthy revenue model, we're not so sure that we will see the same kind of growth or those kind of spends on e-com portals. So that itself is up for debate.
I would argue it a little different.
Okay.
Right? So first and foremost, go back to the fundamentals again. The population is there whose connectivity to mobile phones is incredibly high. Like when we had done our own research at MasterCard, we found that 3 out of 4 people from the urban centers in India, adults, they have said they made a purchase in the last 3 months using their smartphone.
Sure.
Okay. Now, once you get hooked on to this kind of a behavior, irrespective of whether the discount is there tomorrow or not, there is definitely a shift from the physical to the digital space.
Okay.
That is bound to happen.
Okay.
And once you are habituated, it's very difficult for you to go back. And you don't stop doing it just because the discount is not available today. One way you can argue, saying that are these e-commerce companies doing the smart thing or not, by way of giving these huge discounts. It's a matter of their business models. I cannot really comment on that, how sustainable it is or not.
Sure.
But as a e-commerce player, from the point of payment facilitation, for me it is fantastic.
Of course.
Right? And the key thing is, typically, even in the Western countries, you see, in the physical space itself, there are constantly these sales which are happening, which draw lots of people.
Sure.
But the absence of sales is not going to stop the purchases from a consumer point of view.
And to you, it really doesn't matter whether it's digital or it's offline, as long as it's cashless.
As long as it is cashless. And our key competition is exactly that, which is cash.
Exactly.
Given that the penetration of digital payments is so small in India, even in the rest of the world it is, we have got less than 15% of total commerce going on is digital. So we have got 85% which is yet to be penetrated. And that's a fantastic opportunity for us. And India is even more so. So back to the question, we have got a population which is now becoming more and more digitally native. All this young population tomorrow when they are coming, they are brought up in Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and all these good things and the e-commerce portals. So that becomes a part of their life. It's a way of life for them, number one. Number two, as a medium for marketing, this is like, the ubiquity of smartphones has totally transformed how you do marketing. Firstly, you're contextually aware where the person is. Secondly, you're hyper-targeting because you know who the consumer is, who is watching it, unlike in the case of a TV or in the case of a press or whatever else it is. And the third thing for us, most importantly, is you're able to do things in real time. The digital marketing is completely going to transform the way marketing happens.
Okay, don't you think MasterCard and everybody who represents what you do, your industry, not just you, and the entire banking industry completely missed the bus on payment gateways, which is why today you see giants such as PayPal, giants in India such as Paytm, which was technically right up your alley.
If you were to go back to the history of PayPal, MasterCard has been one of the significant collaborators right from the stage of inception for PayPal. Look at PayPal, for example. Do you see PayPal as a competitor to MasterCard?
Absolutely.
They're not. See, this is a very unique kind of a scenario, right? PayPal is actually promoting the category in total.
Okay.
Through PayPal, MasterCard is also rising because some of our spend goes through PayPal.
Yes, but
the key thing is, it's something like this. If you are focused on the ecosystem and trying to enhance the penetration of digital payments, all the ships rise. Now, today we do that with PayPal, we do it with Apple Pay, we do it with Samsung Pay, we do it with Android Pay. These, we don't look at them as competitive.
If I had to, take your hypothesis at face value,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And not assume that you're giving me a media savvy statement.
Okay.
Then, by that logic, why did MasterCard invest in Razorpay in India? And B, why is it that the world is speculating that MasterCard is in talks with PayPal for a buyout?
Well, the second one, I'm not aware of it at all.
Okay.
But on the other hand, our investments have got a very clear methodology and approach. All the innovation that happens and that's happening at this point in time cannot be done within the organization. We partner with a number of companies to see that there is either some innovative aspect that they have got, either they have got an IP or they have got some unique strength that will complement what we have, that we go ahead and invest in that company so that we are insourcing that or we are having access to the assets the other company has got. It's a question of, based on the business strategy we have, which parts of the ecosystem you want to strengthen your presence in. If gateway is a part of the ecosystem that we want to focus on in any given country, that's what we'll put the money in. It's not because that is a competition and I'm trying to buy the competition.
I think, your global chief financial officer has gone on record to say that they are very, very unhappy with PayPal on two counts. First being the lack of visibility of data from transactions. That's the first grouse point. Second being that they are very unhappy because they think PayPal is guiding consumers to spend in a certain way, which in turn impacting MasterCard's, fees and volume.
First and foremost, from a data perspective today, we don't own data, even with the regular credit cards. The data belongs to the banks. So therefore, if you say that PayPal is not giving us the data, that's not really very consistent to me. Right? I don't know what exact comments you are referring to because I haven't heard those comments before. So that's the first point. Second thing is, because PayPal has got a capability to have multiple payment vehicles or options for the consumers to choose, obviously we'll be wanting to have our own bigger share.
Of course.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
And we will try whatever the strategies that we would have, whether it is marketing strategies or sales strategies, promotional strategies, to push our share higher. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we are unhappy with PayPal or that something is happening in the ecosystem that we are not thrilled about or whatever it is.
The other question I want to talk about is the fact that you are trying very hard to ensure that MasterCard is looked at as a technology company and not a credit card company.
Correct.
And the fact of the matter is, the broad perception is that you're still a credit card company.
That's the perception.
Right? My question is very simple. Why do you care what your perception is? Because finally you're a B2B play and what the consumer thinks of you, as long as they know your name and there's visibility in their mind space. Why are you working so hard on changing the consumer perception that we're a tech company? Because today everybody calls themselves a tech company. Right.
See, first and foremost, we are absolutely not a credit card company because we don't issue a single credit card or a debit card or a prepaid card, right? We are a platform company. And that platform is a technology-enabled platform, and we should be recognized for what we are, as opposed to being wrongly perceived. While we are a B2B company, we call ourselves as like an ingredient brand, right? When a consumer is making a choice, they're making a choice on the name of the bank, the feature benefits of what that particular card offers, and a reassurance that they get from what this platform network is. We have to influence demand So we would ideally like for consumers to go to their banks and say, I would rather have a MasterCard
as opposed to a Visa.
somebody else. Exactly right. And that's something which would definitely strike
Do you think that's a realistic expectation to have?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have been doing these campaigns in the last few years, at least 3 years that I have been here. We are seeing a significant change in the consumer's demand when we run a marketing campaign the right way. And that's how we know it's very effective. For example, I'll tell you. So we have got this whole platform called Priceless Surprises, which to date we regard it as probably our most successful campaign ever. We have launched it in more than 58 countries around the world, and we are sort of creating these surprises for consumers where just because they're MasterCard consumers, we surprise them in their social media, for example, just as a case point. And we say, hey, here is a surprise from MasterCard. You click on it. It could be an unreleased song of Justin Timberlake. You click on it, you get not one but 4 downloads of the same song so that you can surprise and delight your network. So you're a MasterCard consumer, so you get all this benefit. So when you are then surprising and delighting other people, then people start asking, okay, how come that Sonali is able to do this? It's because she has got a MasterCard. And this is just a small thing of a digital download of a song, but they're in different values. There can be speakers, there can be headsets, there'll be tickets to various concerts, meet and greet experiences, and the ultimate one when we had launched the first time, this was directed to the music fans, was that Justin Timberlake will come to your home and spend a day with you.
How do you decide who gets this now?
This is basically completely random.
Oh, it's random?
It's totally random. And you don't have to make a purchase with a MasterCard. All we need is you need to be a MasterCard card member. The point is, when consumers start seeing that there is something happening always when you have a MasterCard, they start wondering, hey, should I not be having a MasterCard because I have seen Sonali or I have seen somebody else getting something and I'm not getting it. And why am I not getting it? Because I don't have a MasterCard. So hopefully there will be a feeling at some point in time so that I would rather have a MasterCard than not have one. And that is actually working now for us.
Tell me, Raja, what kind of a challenge are you facing on a day-to-day, quarter-to-quarter kind of situation, given that you're a global CMO and unfortunately or fortunately, you're surrounded by an environment today that is, changing at a very fast pace.
Correct.
And what is relevant today becomes absolutely redundant tomorrow.
Yep.
And the complexity and the multiplicity of platforms, that have suddenly emerged, and this, dire need to keep trying to connect and engage with your consumer,
yes.
And the fact that, most of the industry itself is pretty much clueless as to what's happening and is groping in the dark and trying to figure it out. So in this situation, how exactly do you deal with it, and what are the things that you've done within your company as transformational changes to get your organization to just get more with it? And B, what is the key difference you see when it comes to the whole change of landscape when I talk about unsophisticated or developing markets like people like to call it, versus sophisticated developed markets?
Right. So first thing is, you're absolutely right. As the complexity of the landscape is growing so dramatically, the need is to simplify internally as well as externally. And I'll give you an example. So when I took over as a CMO about 3 years back, we used to have about 168 different marketing platforms. We shut them all down. And we have now got just 4 platforms.
Okay.
And we focus every single marketing effort only on these 4 platforms. And we put our entire budgets behind these 4 platforms. These are called Priceless Cities, Priceless Surprises, Priceless Causes, and Priceless Specials.
Okay.
You won't find anything else beyond this, just these 4. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, what that does is people know that instead of running behind 168, there are only 4. There is clarity. Everyone down the chain of command understands exactly what is the purpose of each platform and how to make it most effective. Success transfer from country to country happens very easily, and this really works very well. That's one part of it. Plus, my money is being utilized. If I'm spreading my money behind 168 platforms versus 4, each of these platforms gets so much more visibility and momentum.
Okay.
Now look at the outside world. Things are happening on a daily basis. You're absolutely right. What is something which is a fad today, you don't know if it's a fad that's going to disappear tomorrow, or it will continue on a sustained basis. So you have to take some bets and not chase every shiny penny.
Okay.
And we try to do this, like for example, on the technology side. various technologies are coming. Everyone is running behind, for example, virtual reality. Okay,
Absolutely.
virtual reality has come. What do we do about it?
Mm.
So what we try to do is firstly try and understand what could be the applications in the context of MasterCard. Okay, virtual reality, everyone is talking about it. So do we just simply adopt it and do something because it's supposed to be done, everyone is doing, so I also have to do? Or can I really leverage some fundamental advantage this platform can give me that today I cannot get through my existing platforms? So we have one of our brand ambassadors called Guy McDowell. So Guy McDowell, we made him do a virtual reality film on the 17th hole at TPC
Yeah, I
Sawgrass.
saw that, yeah.
And what we did very unique in this is we combined commerce and augmented reality into virtual reality. And see, is this something which can actually stimulate consumer behavior in favor of my brand and to actually enable commerce? So when you're watching it wearing your gear, whether it is cardboard or when you're wearing the Oculus Rift or whatever, you're watching this whole show with Graham McDowell. And when you look at him, for example, on his shirt, immediately it pops out. And it gives you details of that shirt. That's the augmented reality part of it. There is an extra layer of information. So this is something which is relevant. Is it going to gain scale? We don't know. But if it does gain the scale, we don't want to miss the boat.
Sure.
So we are trying to prepare ahead of time, and we are running these pilots as one simple example.
Sure.
We are also looking at wearables, for example, right, in terms of how wearables can be both as an authentication mechanism for the company, which means this particular card or the payment product belongs to this individual for sure. And the second part of it is that this is something which can be used for payment purpose. So two examples here, like, we have partnered with Callaway, going on the golf example. So Callaway, we have put in payment functionality in one of the golf, gloves that they have created for us. So you're in the middle of the game, the food cart comes along, just tap with your glove, and you pick up the item and then
Wow, nice.
bringing a lot of convenience and leveraging the existing assets and contextually appropriate. You actually try to see if you can get momentum. So we are experimenting with a whole lot of these kind of things.
I believe you were at the Cannes Lions this year.
Correct.
What were your key takeaways?
Cannes Lions, I think, it's been very inspirational at many levels. The kind of thinking that's coming around, the kind of technology reveals that have been out there, the social aspects is particularly what has been the biggest thing for me. How the social causes were really being promoted and how they're gaining a root, whether it is by brands, like the Dove and some of these Unilever brands.
Do you think some people have forgotten that they need to sell and they've become NGOs? Did that come across?
I have heard that criticism a few times before.
It's becoming a bit too much, especially at Cannes.
But one thing, if you were to see, there is a fantastic opportunity between commerce and cause, as I see at this point in time. And based on that insight alone, we created one of the 4 platforms, and we only have 4, as I said. We call it Priceless Causes. Priceless Causes is we're taking 1 or 2 or 3 causes and trying to create a social business around that cause. So it's not philanthropy. One of those was our association with World Food Program, and we said that we'll run some promotions and create funding for the World Food Program to feed poor children in Africa. Now, in a typical way, this might look like a little, one more good kind of a thing, but it is not. That's where the beauty is. So we said in the last quarter of 2015, for 8 weeks, we said in 19 countries across Central and Eastern Europe, use your MasterCard, and each time you use your MasterCard, we will feed a poor child in Africa. Consumers didn't have to do anything. They had to just use their card or shift from another card to my card or shift from cash to my card. It was so successful for us. Firstly, our share of wallet has gone up. So there is a real growth. Secondly, after the promotion ended, the growth rate has come down, but still it has settled down at a level higher than what it was before. So it was a net growth for us. So there's real business gain. And the contribution that we made also helped the cause, wherein we actually adopted 40,000 children for 1 full year to feed them a meal a day in school in Rwanda. Now, what has that done to my brand? Remember, we spoke a little while back, MasterCard is perceived as a credit card brand. Credit cards sometimes are not looked at in a positive light.
Absolutely.
Right? And in that scenario, when you do something good with this kind of a cause, it rubs off very positively on the brand, and the likability score of our brand has actually shifted for the better. So coming back to Cannes and tying with that, I think some of these, when they're looking at how some brands were tackling the social causes for the betterment of the brand, It was very interesting. And I came up with a few ideas. Hopefully, they will take shape in the coming few months and years.
Fair enough. On that note, thank you so much, Raja. This
Thank you.
was truly wonderful.
Wonderful. Thanks so much again.